We're going to start the second half of the symposium. We're very pleased to have you here. I hope you had enjoyed your lunch break. Yes. And as we announced before lunch, now is the time to our next panel. We're going to touch on the subject that is so meaningful to all of us, immortal spirits. Mediumship. What is the Spiritist approach to mediumship? Its practice and its purpose in our lives. So I'm going to introduce Dan Assisi, who is the moderator for our next panel, and we'll reflect on the philosophical perspectives on the practice of Spiritist mediumship. Dan Assisi is an author and an international speaker known for his unique approach to spirituality that is steeped in reason, to remind audiences everywhere of our spiritual nature. Thank you. Yeah. He is a founding member of the Spiritist Institute, which I mentioned earlier, and of the California Spirit Association. And he hosts, with my friend Flavio Zanetti, the Spiritist Conversations podcast. Welcome.
It's good to see you now.
Yes. Oops, sorry.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Are you doing good, or are you just saying you're doing good? Because that's what you're supposed to say. But I want to make sure that you're here in body and mind, because I know that you just came back from lunch. Right? So we are thrilled to have this panel for you, specifically tailored at talking at mediumship. We have three wonderful people that are going to come and be part of this panel, and we're going to introduce them for you. But before we do that, I wanted to set some context for you, right? So this panel is about mediumship, and we're calling it mediumship at the core of Spiritism. And why is that, you say, Dan? Why would you say that particular piece? Well, I think that is really key for us to understand here is that when we are talking about an event that is life through the lens of immortality, the immortality piece is pretty important. And how do we know that there is such a thing as immortality? How do we actually know that, right? Well, mediumship is that key for us. It is that piece of mechanism, that methodology that allows us to be able to really connect the dots between what every other belief system out there talks about and promises, the afterlife, but that's a promise. But with mediumship, we can bring that into the realm of evidence. And with doing that, it means that we have plausible explanations and concrete proof that there is indeed such a thing as life after life. And if that is the case, what does that mean to us? And what is it that we can do about it? We have also talked about the fact earlier today and many different events that mediumship is not an invention of Spiritism. It has always existed, perhaps under different names. We have called mediums high priests in ancient Egypt. We have called them shamans. We have called them prophets. We have called them sibyls. We have even called them oracles. The name is not as important as the concept behind it. So mediumship has always existed. So what is it that you might be asking that is so interesting about the mediumship perspective that Spiritism brings? Well, I think that Spiritism has really changed the way we see mediumship historically speaking. Whereas before the publication of this incredible book called The Medium's Book, published in 1861, mediumship was in the realm of the chosen few. Only the enlightened or the initiated had access to the knowledge that mediumship came about. However, when Kardec publishes this incredible book in 1861, the first treatise that I ever know that talks about mediumship in an open and rational way, it makes it available for everybody out there who wants to learn about mediumship to be able to understand it, practice it, and yield the fruits of that. So Spiritism comes to democratize the whole mediumship thing and takes mediums away from the pedestal of the sacred to make them everyday people, just you and me. And that ought to change the way we look at mediumship in general. And these three people here today are going to bring some wonderful insights for us on the Spiritist approach, on how we do the practice of Spiritism, and how that aligns to Christianity, because these are different things that we keep getting asked often, which is, why is Spiritist mediumship different than what I see out there in the world? What is it that you guys do in your mediumistic groups, and why is that important? And is that really aligned with Christianity? Because you also talk about Jesus, but a lot of people are under the impression that there is a prohibition of mediumship in the Bible and the Old Testament, which is not the case. But to make sure that we tackle that, let's make sure that we bring to the stage the people that you really want to hear from, right? Not this guy. First of all, let's please welcome our friend Humberto Schubert back to the stage. You all have been introduced to Humberto before, so I will not belabor you with more of his great accolades, other to say that there are many of his books available out there, and you should make sure that you take advantage of that insight. But I also want to call to the stage our friend Jussara Korngold. Jussara is currently the General Secretary of the International Spiritist Council, the Vice President of our very own United States Spiritist Federation. But that's not only it. She's also the founder of the Spiritist Group of New York and the Spiritist Alliance for Books. She's an author, a speaker, and she's also a translator for many different languages. Thank you for joining us, Jussara. We're really glad you're here. And I'm not going to forget about the last one. I'm looking at you, Marcia. Can I just get a round of applause for Marcia, by the way, our wonderful friend, who's so thought and so intentional about everything she does. We have Rafael here. Rafael Rezende, can you please come to the stage? Rafael Rezende is currently an assistant professor of neurology at Harvard Medical School and Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, or is it Boston? Boston. If you parked your car out there, I can't do it. I'm sorry, Sharon, I can't do it. That's pretty good, actually. And he's also currently an active and contributing member of the Allan Kardec Medical, look at me, Allan Kardec Spirit Society of Massachusetts, and he's also at the United States Medical Association, hence my double problem there. Thanks for being here, everyone. So, so what we're going to do here is we are going to go back and forth between these folks, and we're going to focus in 3 different areas. But I think it makes a lot more fun for us to do this and have them chime in and talk about mediumship with all the experiences they have. But I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that you too can ask questions. If you like to ask a question, write it down, give it to one of our assistants and helpers, and they will help us get it here on stage if we have time, right? And if not, maybe we'll pile them up, like Marcia said from our AMA question at the end. So let's start with Humberto, because he's gone before, so he's warmed up, right? So Humberto, you talked about obviously the Spiritist concepts throughout history and the old philosophers, and now we're focusing on mediumship. And we made a point that mediumship has always existed. What do you think is so special about the perspective that Spiritism brings to mediumship?
Is it working? Well, I think the main difference is that Kardec was really an enlightened philosopher, and he wanted to present mediumship through the lens of naturalism. That is, that mediumship would correspond to some essential natural laws, which he was not, he did not pretend to explain all of these laws, or even to know all of these laws. He was very aware that he was in the beginning of a new science, or a sort of science that would, in the future, explore the laws of nature that form conscience and thought, and the possible interchange between this and the other worlds, other dimensions. And although we made very little progress after Allan Kardec in this field, he believed it should be the subject of scientific scrutiny, that we should investigate mediumship empirically and make progress in our knowledge about how it actually works. Not only believing in what he said about mediumship, or preaching, or preserving his teachings forever as a sacred book. What I like most in Kardec's work is that he had never the intention that his books would be considered sacred scripture, that we should follow blindly. But he was open to questioning and eager to see other groups developing different approaches to mediumship or to other spiritist subjects.
And along those lines, Humberto, how do you think that Kardec's approach and this more rational way help break this mystic feel of the special field, chosen field that mediumship had, and still has to this date a little bit?
Great question. Maybe it will take some time to fade away, because this mystic atmosphere is deeply rooted in our souls, in the way we saw and experienced mediumship for millennia. And now we, after only 150 or 200 years of natural approach and philosophical, rational, and also scientific approach to mediumship, we are just learning or making the first few steps in the direction of a more universal understanding of mediumship and how it actually works. So it may be that we have some psychological resistance and some structures in our souls that comes from the ancient age, and the prejudices and the way we interpreted mediumship in the past through symbolism and mysticism and religious dogmas and so. But we should not lose our hope that eventually our minds, our consciousness will adapt to this new bold and modern way of thinking about mediumship.
Great, and it's, I love that you said that, because sometimes we can also draw a parallel and say that the way that Spiritists have practiced mediumship has also slightly changed with time. In the beginning, there's probably a bigger focus on evidential mediumship, on showing that the afterlife exists. But now it's a little bit different. And I also want to go to Rafael in a little bit on this one. But how have you seen that change over time? Because it seems like we have slowly gone up like a ladder of inference and start to get, so once we're satisfied with the existence of the afterlife, then mediumship becomes a different tool. Does that make sense for you?
It does, because in Kardec's philosophy, progress is supposed to happen. So it may not happen always, because we are limited and we create obstacles in our own minds. But the fact is that progress is one of the laws of nature for Kardec. So development and progress is something that we should expect in all fields, in all areas, and for everyone. Eventually, it will come to this or that area, and we see progress in the way we question the mediums, for example. Before Kardec, mediumship was not recognized as a natural faculty. It was seen as a gift, a special gift for the chosen ones, and divine gift or a power that was directly linked to political power, to the authority of the priests, of the prophets, of the mystics, of the monks, and so on. And after Kardec, we started questioning the mediums. We have the habit, or we should have the habit of talking to a medium after the communication, and frankly saying, well, I think part of it may come from your subconscious. It is quite possible that this subject or this style comes from you and not so much from the spirit. And I have this and this reason for believing that, and I'm eager to hear your counter arguments. And there should be an open debate about that. After Kardec's age, Spiritist communication became more and more a means to solace, to provide consolation to people. And that's, to some extent, a cultural development. And it's also connected to the fact that Spiritism developed very well in Brazil, for example, and also very well in the religious aspect. But I think it is also an evidence that it made some progress, that it changed through the course of time from the origins to what is needed in our days.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And with that, specifically with this idea of mediumship as a way to comfort those who are bereaved, perhaps because they've lost loved ones, Spiritism took a little bit of a step further, right, Rafael? And I'm going to come to you here, because we also realized that we can also counsel and comfort those who are not in the physical plane, but are in the spiritual plane. So Spiritist mediumship has a service aspect to it too.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how that is done in Spiritism?
Yeah, so first off, I just want to ask you, the audience, have you ever been in a Spiritist meeting, mediumship meeting? So it sometimes, I mean, it's hard, as we're going to touch some concepts here that most people were never present in a spiritual meeting. So the thing is, and this is a good thing, because first, all the Spiritist house or Spiritist center or groups that open this sort of meetings to everyone, I don't actually like it, because some people are not prepared to go and see things or hear things or just go out of curiosity. So this is a very serious work that you need to take very seriously. And once you are there, and then you can help mostly the spirits that are not incarnate. So they're gonna be, I've seen mediums only wishing to have Bezerra de Menezes, for example, or Eurípides Barçanufo, or just maybe Holy Mary talking through them.
And just as a parenthesis, these are well-known spirits within the Brazilian Spiritist practice, for those who are not familiar.
Right, or it could be anyone that you can think here. Albert Einstein, for example. It could come and talk to me, so I don't want to open myself to other spirits. But in fact, those meetings, those group sessions, they actually help in spirits that sometimes don't even know they're in the spiritual world. And it's very common. So you go and you hear them saying, what am I doing here? Who is this? Who are these people? Who is this voice I'm talking to? And this is a point where we begin to help them. There's other people that participates in these meetings. We call, there's so many names you can call them. They're going to talk to the spirits through the medium, because medium, as the name says, is the intermediate between both worlds. So once you are having this manifestation, another person participating in the meeting is going to come and talk to the spirit and try to help them. So that's why this is an important point of the sessions, not only to help the incarnate, but also the ones that are suffering on the other side.
So that's quite a change, right? Because most of the time we think about mediumship being a tool for comfort of the living, but oftentimes it can also be used to help those who are, quote, quote, no longer living. Even though that's not true.
No, actually it's the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have these meetings, the sessions we call, there's just for obsession. I know it's like a word that most people have heard, but there is some specific meetings where we go and you're trying to help the ones that are incarnated, but they're suffering from the influence of spirits that somehow never forgave that person. So those kind of situations help both. But, when you're there and the spirit is there and it's brought by, the community of other spirits that coordinate spiritually those meetings, and they come and you talk to them and and somehow you clarify things. So this is, in my point of view, a way to help way more the ones that are no longer here than the ones that are actually here. So that's based on the experience I've been seeing, and the suffering is a lot. I mean, just an example. Once I was in a meeting and there was a spirit that came and began to ask, what are those vehicles in the streets? What was going on? What is those noise? What is that? What is going on? Then we start to talk to them, to the spirit. And he's actually from the period where he was living in Egypt, in the ancient Egypt. So he didn't know anything. He was stuck mentally in a mono idea for thousands of years. And eventually got to the point where he was prepared to break that mono idea and eventually open himself up to the reality. So that's it. You see how beautiful those sessions and how important they are.
So that's a great way for us to kind of shift perspectives a little bit, right? Because we have generally been exposed on TV to a medium as somebody who brings messages from loved ones, and it's a very cathartic piece. And all of a sudden you're talking to me and telling me that there's actually a big service component, whereas the mediums are serving as a conduit for people who are suffering or who are confused. So how does that change our approach, at least in the Spiritist perspective, to becoming a medium and the job of the medium?
So one thing that is interesting here in America, I think everybody watch shows and you see those mediums, really like weird people. Sorry about that, but that's how they show themselves.
We're weird too sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, you know, and you see them, you see those people that just lost someone in the family, and they just want to be comforted, and they go to these mediums. And by the way, they pay them. That's another point. That's never should be charged. So, but anyways, they go and they want to ask about, you know, the family. And, you know, Chico Xavier used to say something that really important, which is like the phone rings from that side to this side, not the other way around. So if you go to a medium and ask, I want to know about my dad who passed away 5 years ago. So, and then the medium, okay, I'm charging you $500, so I have to tell you something. And that's where the problem starts. And you never know if actually what is manifesting through that medium is actually your father, your mother, your brother, sister, whatever. So becoming a medium is not something that I say, I want to be a medium. It can happen anytime in your life. In my case, for example, it happened since I was a child. And nobody could understand what's going on to me. So it was more like a suffering because my family were Catholic. So those that are living right around the church and priests are always in my house. And I couldn't talk to them as I was seeing dead people. So in that case, you know, it's you don't choose it. Maybe you chose it before you come back. But when you're here, it can happen at any time. So once it happens, then you need to be ready to work. And work for Jesus, that's the first thing. And helping, always have in mind that you're helping other people. The only difference is they don't have a body, a physical body. But you're helping them to see the light, to go through their path, and eventually to become happy again. So that's the whole point.
Great. And then maybe I can throw a curveball to Jussara here on this one. Jussara, we're talking about mediumship, and it's just one thing, the same thing all the time. Can you talk to us a little bit about the nuances of mediumship and what kind of types of mediums we potentially have and how that works?
Okay, hello everyone, welcome.
Is the microphone on, Jussara? I'm seeing.
Hello. Yeah, now hello everyone. Welcome back to the session afternoon that we have here at our symposium. And there was so many good things that our friends here have talked about the subject. And I'm trying to, you know, gathering all my thoughts and all the things that I could be talking up to you about, you know, mediumship and all of that. First thing that came to my mind is that, except from my husband, that is really very tall, I think we all are mediums here. So
I'm extra large.
Yeah, please show yourself how tall you are. And anyway, so this is something that we all have in common when we are talking about mediumship. And one of the things that I was thinking is that there is one of the greatest fears that we have in life is the fear of death. And talking about mediumship implies death. I mean, the word per se that Kardec utilizes as me being the intermediary, as we being the intermediary between two worlds. One that we consider the world of the living, and the other one that it should be the world of the more alive than we are, but we call for, you know, in different, using different terminologies. And so can you imagine how hard it has been for us throughout the ages to have to accept communication? Because to accept communication, I have to accept that there is death. And that there is continuation of the dying in a way, and that there is a way of this dying can communicate with me. And truth be told, sometimes we don't want them to be talking to us anymore, right? We barely want them, some of them talking to us now, imagine later on. So to have to deal with this concept, it's not just talking about death, it's talking about the continuation, is implying reincarnation, is implying a system, a possibility that was so well researched by Allan Kardec. because he didn't want to stay in the commonplace that was being presented throughout the ages, that with whatever rituals, whatever sort of belief you would have, that would be a way for you into summoning this, world of the dead, into getting into communication with yourselves. And he tried to classify that in a way that would make sense, that, okay, if there is death, if there is no death, there is the continuation, that this mortal spirit, what happens, how this happens, how do we continue, how can we communicate? Where so beautifully he put it into the world psychography, psychophony, psycho, meaning the communication of minds through writing, graphic, or through the voice. So we are talking about minds, the survival of the mind, the survival of the spirit, and the ability that we have beyond our physical body to communicate, because this is something that is going to be commonplace in the future, whether we like it or not. I mean, from this side of the stage, I literally can look at some of you and know what you're thinking. And I don't have to be a medium for that. I just see, how your eyes are shining or not. You seem pleased or not with what I'm. This is the communication that we are talking about. So mediumship, in the sense that Kardec explored in, he said, listen, we are not talking about phenomena anymore. Mediumship in the Spiritism is not about phenomena. It's about the eternal living. It's about us as spirits can establish this line of communication, whether we have a corporeal physical body or not. And I think it's so fascinating when you think about it. And I was remembering when Humberto was talking about, the prejudices and all that, and the history, and how we should pursue mediumship or not. Also, since I was very small, I had those perceptions. I had this ability of sensing things, and was always curious about all of that. And I remember that there was a tradition in our family that we had parents that lived in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, and we would go there for every New Year's Eve. And for those who are familiar with that, you have all this celebration at the beach, and then all this Mãe de Santos there, and all, of this African rituals that we also have in Brazil. And of course, being interested, I guess at the time I was like 10 or 11, I don't know. I went to talk to one of them, and she had all those, white dresses and colors, and she was holding this position, and she looked at me and she said, if you want it, I can bring your spirit to talk through you here and now. I was in Copacabana, and I think I ran to Leblon or something, because I was so afraid. This was not what I wanted to become. But little did I know at that time that was just a fragment of representation of what mediumship is. And this is what Spiritism is all about when we are talking about, let's change our concept. Let this mythify mediumship and think more about the possibilities of the mind.
And let me barge in here too, and say, you're talking about different perspectives, African traditions, and so forth. But, we often hear from our other brothers and sisters who are perhaps in a different branch of Christianity, saying that there is no place for mediumship in Christian practice, that is actually a bad thing, right? So how can Spiritism help reconcile that and show that, in fact, we see tons of mediumship in the Bible, first in the New Testament?
Well, it's one thing very much like when we talk about reincarnation, whether we like it or not, whether we believe it or not, we'll come back to see. You see, mediumship is the same thing. It's not a thing that we should be running about it. And there are so many controversies that we find in the holy texts, because we see Moses performing what is called to be miracles, and others, talking to the voices and hearing the spirits, but all of a sudden, some of them are allowed to do that, others are not allowed to do that. Some people that were considered to, because of the way of their living or following certain religions, they would be considered more saints than the others. They would be embalmed or not, considered as Christian saints. The thing is, we know very little. And I think one of the things that it's very important that we have in the Spirit's book, when the question and answer, when it says that we were all created unenlightened and with the same future, we are all children of God. So regardless of what we are at the present moment, we all have the same destination. But I cannot convince, and I should not. This is why not why we are here. Convince anyone to be thinking the way I'm thinking. Everyone has their own course. This is a self-discovery journey. I mean, I can give you indications. Actually, you can have it in my book, Inner Transformation Outside, available by the United States Spiritist Federation. Anyway, but you can have some guidelines, a little roadmap. But I mean, either way, you have to do it. It's not that I'm going to look at the recipe and magically the recipe is going to materialize in front of me. I'll have to buy the ingredients. I'll have to mix up everything. So this is how we should be looking at scriptures that we have, and I think it's always very fascinating. But at the same time, not narrowing our mind, saying, look, they were all wrong. Maybe I am the wrong one because I'm still insisting on interpreting them in a certain way, and they were all the time trying to tell me something different. When Jesus told me, love your enemies, he didn't explain about obsessors. So now that I know about the spiritual continuation, I know about spiritual attachment, I know that, I should make efforts to be, good with everyone. Now it makes sense. It is not in my own interest to act in this way. So there are so many things, and I think we should never discard them just because we will think that we know better. I'm sure in 2,000 years we will look back in the same way that we are looking back at people that lived 2,000 years ago and saying, oh, they were barbarians. So let's embrace everything. Let's try to understand as much as we can. And let us be just, very careful with what we are looking for when we are choosing things and people and knowledge to guide our paths. I think this is the key now, being really selective in choosing. And this does not mean discarding the rest, but knowing that since we cannot embrace everything, try to choose the best that you can and let the other things fall into place according to time.
Thank you. And what you were saying there is actually biblical advice, because in the first, check this out. I'm going to connect the dots, hopefully. There's actually, 1 John has a great mediumistic recommendation when he says, beloved, believe not every spirit, but judge whether they are of God. For false prophets, the false prophets piece. So you want some great mediumistic, suggestion is, don't take anybody's word for it, whether they're living or not, right? Try it out and see if it makes sense, because right? So I think what Jussara was saying about the critical thinking piece is really great. There's a question here, and we can kind of shortcut this one a little bit. You can come talk to us afterwards about what passages of the Bible prohibit Spiritism or mediumship specifically. A lot of stuff in the Old Testament, Leviticus has a couple of instances in which that happens. We will caution you too, because new translations have used words like beware of mediums and spiritists, which is fascinating for me because the word mediums and spiritists did not exist in Leviticus times. So they're clearly reinterpretations of what people said. But if you want passages, we can talk about that later. But I want to save some of the great questions we have here for our people. And I want to go to you, Rafael, a little bit and say, are we all mediums? And so how do we develop it?
We are all mediums, believe it or not, if you want or not. So the thing is, what we actually call mediums are those that we call ostensive mediums. So those mediums are actually, you see, like you think about Chico Xavier, you think about Divaldo Franco. So all these mediums that, psychograph, or they see, they tell things. So these are actually not all of us, but we are all mediums in the sense that we are created by God. We are spirits, we are incarnate. So in that sense, we are all always communicating with the spiritual world because we belong to the spiritual world. So that's where our house is. And every night when you go to bed, you are actually practicing your death. So that's the point. Sometimes it's scary, but every time you sleep, your soul kind of moves a little bit out, and they're going to be in touch with the ones that you love or the ones that you're more attracted to. This is, it's a property, it's a faculty. Some people develop it more. And I wouldn't say, I want to be a medium. Good, so you can try it. But in that sense, you need to work a lot in a good way, trying to become a better person, because that's the type of medium you want to be. Not mediums that are somehow perturbed, that ended up in places where you don't want to be. So in that sense, if you want to become a medium, if you want to work as a medium, so try to become a better person. Try to change the way you live. Try to change the way you see things in the world. Beginning to forgive, that's the biggest point. Beginning to love more. So then you acquire this ability eventually to communicate with the spirits. But the ones that come with this mediumship in the way that it's so strong, usually it's expiation or, you did something wrong before. So you come and you have to use this to kind of speed up your recovery. So in that sense, I say that if you're a medium in a way that, you consider mediumship, it's like, am I a very good person? What am I doing? So, but I answer your question a short way. Yeah, everybody's a medium. Some people will develop it more. Some people will never, are scared of seeing things. I don't want to be a medium. I don't want to see dead people. If you want to become one, you're going to see it. Doesn't matter how, but you're going to see it. So
it's hard to counsel the spirits on how to do things if we're not doing them themselves, right? It's to do what I say, not do what I do, right?
Exactly.
So we got two more questions, and I want to go back to Jussara for a quick one, Jussara, a minute or two. Can you help us figure it out here? There's a question saying that some folks are like, they're shocked to learn that the spirits who do not know that they have passed on, that they're dead, right? Some of them. So that's shocking for some people. What can they do to prepare themselves so that they're not one of those on the other side?
I think everything starts with, the instructions from Jesus. Love and instruct yourself. So I think we have to go after knowledge and after understanding. And sometimes, it's very common for us to find people that, because of course we cannot give you all the answers. We don't know all the answers and we don't know the details if we want to know exactly what happens when we pass, because to each person is going to be an individual experience. But this doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And so the people that are very radical in the sense that they want to know the details, when we can only offer, the general idea, you're immortal, you go on, and there is an incarnation, and then we go. So I think it's always to be open, to have an open mind, to contemplate things that perhaps you will say to yourself, I still do not know all the answers. I still do not understand all that. But it's not because I do not know all of this that I'm not going to consider that this is not a fact. I normally say that I have some drawers in my brain where I put some things, the things that I do not understand, instead of having a kind of preconceived notions or being prejudiced against some ideas. I'll say I don't have the necessary fact to judge that. So I don't know whether this is true or not. I'm not going to accept, but I'm not going to reject as well. I'm going to leave it here in the back of my mind, and one day when I know more things, I can make a reassessment on those things. So I think a very good thing is to just start contemplating the idea that, yes, we are immortal, and when it comes to a point where we are going to find ourselves in a different scenery, and that nothing necessarily looks that familiar or makes so much sense, you will say, well, maybe I'm dead. But since that does not exist, I'm someplace else. So let's be adventurous and explore.
So we're coming to an end of this panel. But I want to remind you that we have opportunities for you to ask more questions, and we'll have a panel at the end too. And you can always, accost this lovely people during the outside when there's not a session and ask them questions. But I want to go back to you, Humberto, right? Because for me, mediumship is at the DNA of Spiritism, right? In the DNA of Spiritism, there's mediumship imprinted everywhere. It started with the exploration, with the inquiry, which is very Spiritist. Spiritism was born out of inquiry, of asking questions through mediumship, so that we can learn more about the other world and therefore this world as well. Mediumship is amazing. It's open source, it's collaborative. Anybody can add to it. But mediumship has a central role in Spiritism. We cannot have Spiritism without spirits, right? And mediumship is it. So, given the fact that Spiritism is dynamic and is always growing, our understanding of mediumship is always growing too, and it should be practical. What do you think the future of mediumship look like for us, not only Spiritists, but the world in general?
I think it would be great if the future of Spiritism and mediumship should look a bit more like its past. So if we should reconnect to the work of Allan Kardec, because this idea that some deceased people could not realize they were already dead is something that Kardec did not conceive previously. He never imagined this hypothesis. It was something he learned empirically. So questioning, interviewing spirits through the mediums, he realized that a strange pattern existed that he could never dream of, which is the fact that many spirits, several spirits, could not perceive, could not realize they were already dead. There are other examples. For example, Spiritism says the spirits interfere in our dreams. That could be a dogma, that could be an hypothesis, a theory, but he tested it in different contexts through mediums and checked if the other cultures had similar concepts. And in fact, there is no culture that does not present this belief that spirits interfere in our dreams, or that spirits cannot manifest in apparitions. And he realized that bad spirits, ignorant spirits, they would interfere in our dreams, creating suffering and discomfort and frightening us, while good spirits would encourage and strengthen and teach us something. Well, that also happens in Buddhism, for example. We have hungry spirits that frighten us or that cause discomfort. And we have the Avalokitesvaras and the Buddhas that produce great comfort and enlightenment. And in the Catholic Church, for example, we have demons producing bad dreams and discomfort, basically, and angels and saints, or the Virgin Mary in luminous apparitions that produce great satisfaction, or that somehow teach us something or give us advice. So there is a pattern across cultures, and that was the main interest of Allan Kardec. It is relevant that we come back to this notion of identifying if what we are talking about has any relation to a pattern in nature.
Thank you, thank you. Help me thank our panelists with a warm round of applause. And we hope that this spikes your curiosity so you can continue the Spiritist pursuit of knowledge in the journey of understanding mediumship. Thanks very much and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. It's a phenomenon in the Boston area that in the fall, when the students come back, you can start to feel the air changing around you as all of this youth enters our city. And you, all of you in the room, may have just had that experience as the youth come in, and we'd like to welcome them. Come in. Honest to God, the air changes around us and we all get very excited. So it is with great enthusiasm that we introduce the next segment of our symposium, the youth panel. And this is an inspiring opportunity for all of us to hear fresh perspectives and insights from the next generation of Spiritist thinkers, our emerging Spiritist thinkers and practitioners, as they explore the teachings that guide us all. So I have the honor now to pass the baton to Sofia de Oliveira, I hope I said that right, from the Sunrise Spiritist Society of Texas, who is our youth MC. And she's going to introduce the participants of this panel. Welcome her to the stage.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to once again participate in this symposium, especially as we join with our friends from the youth panel to share these special moments. Today, the youth panel will be about Spiritist philosophy in real life. Let me start by introducing the moderator of the youth panel, Beatriz Lopes. Beatriz Lopes is currently the Family, Youth, and Children's Spiritist Education Director for the United States Spiritist Federation. She's a representative of the U.S. within the International Spiritist Council Youth Committee. Bea represented Spiritism globally at the United Nations at the age of 16, and since then has actively taken on various roles within the Spiritist community, from leading study groups to delivering lectures and organizing events like the annual Spiritist Youth Retreat. And to be a part of this panel, we asked to the stage Bettina Tavares, Leonardo Haddad, Gabriella Cabral, and Otavio Goncalves. Bettina Tavares is a sophomore at Seneca Valley High School studying architecture. He has grown up in Spiritism and is a member of the youth group at Allan Kardec Spiritist Society of Maryland. She loves painting and views art as a way to connect with spirituality and bring peace to oneself and others. Leonardo Haddad is a recovery advocate at Nova Recovery Drug and Alcohol Rehab Center. Leo attended Spiritist youth education since a young age and has taken up the role of an educator. As a worker in the Spiritist movement, Leo focuses on bringing a new perspective on what it means to be a Christian within Spiritism. Leo holds a degree in psychology and philosophy from the University of California, Irvine. Gabriella Cabral is a freshman at Trumbull High School in Connecticut. Gabriella has been attending the Spiritist Center in Connecticut for her entire life. She wants to spread the word of Spiritism and have more people her age involved in such an amazing community. Otavio Goncalves is a freshman at Newtown South High School in Newtown, Massachusetts. Otavio loves nature and animals. He plays the piano, likes to write stories, and draws. He has been a Spiritist since childhood. Nowadays, Otavio attends the youth group at the Allan Kardec Spiritist Society of Massachusetts. He believes Spiritism brings hope and balance to everyone. Bia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sophia. And thank you to all of our panelists, for everyone for being here and allowing our youth to literally be at the front of the movement. So thank you for clearing the space really quick and letting them enter. So today I'm really excited to be here with this panel, and everyone always loves the youth panel because how could you not love a group of youth? But besides being a group of youth and being amazing to hear from, they actually do have wonderful insights to share, and they have very real experiences that can apply to all of us. So for this topic, for this panel, we're so excited to be talking about Spiritism in real life. And this is a topic that can apply to anyone. How can you apply Spiritism to your life? As teenagers and young adults that we have here, we also face daily challenges and decisions that we have to make, just as adults do. These panelists have been fortunate to find or start finding ways of how Spiritism can start helping them get through some of those challenges that we all face on a daily basis. Our panelists are going to be talking about how the Spiritist principles have helped them navigate life's complexities with resilience, empathy, and purpose. And what's particularly inspiring is that although this is a panel of youth, I think there's a lot that you can learn from them, and there's a lot of experiences that will apply to things that all of the adults, as well as our youth here and our young adults, also experience. So I really think that even though they'll be talking about their youth perspective, this applies to everyone and can relate to each one of us. So I hope this discussion sparks some reflection within all of us on how Spiritism can be a practical tool to use in our daily lives for our own personal growth. So I'd like to thank all of our panelists for being here today and sharing your insights on Spiritism and the role it plays in your life. I would love to start off with Bettina. Spiritism teaches that our personal challenges are part of our spiritual evolution. How do you view your personal challenges in light of knowing this information?
So, is this on?
Yes.
Okay. So I feel like as a high schooler, especially, there's a lot of new things that we're always experiencing like every day. So as a student athlete, there's always has to be like a balance between school, personal life, and my sport. And so there's stress every single day trying to balance all of that out. One of the things that Spiritism really helps me with is knowing that I'm not alone in that I have my mentors, my spirit guides, that in my centro as well, the people in my centro that allow me to really navigate through all of those experiences. For example, in my personal life, I might not understand why friendships aren't in my life anymore, or certain people are treating me a certain way, but I need to understand that everything happens for a reason, and that we are all in our own individual, like, personal journey, and, you know, really understand that this also like extends to other people. So my friends, all of these things, like I need to extend that compassion, that empathy, not only to myself, but to the others around me as well. So like that really helps kind of guide me through my life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that answer because exactly, right? We all deal with challenging people maybe in our lives or people that we don't agree with. Let me see an adult that's not going to raise their hand for that one, right? But it's really important what you said, that it's more than, right? It helps us personally, but also helps us understand people and let go of grudges because we understand that they're coming from a spiritual journey too, a spiritual evolution, that they have challenges we might not have, or maybe we had those, or maybe we haven't gotten to them yet. So I totally agree that that's a really good way that we can apply Spiritism in our daily lives. I also want to point out that it's so amazing to see this new generation of panelists because you see that instead of paper, like even I brought, they all have their tech and for all their notes. So you know this is the new generation coming in. So in that same vein of how you're using this in your personal life, Otavio, I'd love to turn to you. Spiritism guides your decision-making in the challenges that you face. How does that apply to your life?
Well, is it working? No, it's not working.
You want to switch with?
Okay, there we go. Well, most of the lessons I learned from Spiritism came from the Gospel according to Spiritism. It's a book that taught me many lessons, like a lot. It taught me to love my neighbor as I love myself, to love even my enemies, to be peaceful and gentle, and to show forgiveness. Everybody has like a certain point of view of our stories, but in many situations, people don't try to stop and think. Like, let's pause and think of a solution that will be good for both of us. Sometimes in the middle of a two-sided argument, there is an element that sometimes is missing. That is a truth. So, once Jesus Christ said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life." The truth is that everyone in the world of trials and expiations is supposed to love each other, because that is a legacy that Jesus tried to leave on us.
Thank you so much. I told you guys were going to learn from this panel. Yeah, and I love that. I love how you tied to what Bettina was saying about, dealing with other people. And sometimes you're in this conflict and you get so worked up that you think you're right or the other person thinks they're right. And now you have to make these decisions, right, based on these situations. But when you take a step back and look at it from this spiritual view, it can really help calm you down, recenter, find that compassion for people, empathy for people, and make better decisions. Thank you so much. So off of something Otavio said, he talked about trials and expiations. Spiritism views these trials and expiations as opportunities for growth. Leo, I would love to ask you, how does this belief influence your ability to stay resilient during difficult times?
So I think my experience with trials and stuff, like I didn't really have a connection to Spiritism when it comes to trials and stuff for a long time until I was probably about like 18 or so, because that's when like things started to get kind of hard in my life, right? Like real trials. Because when you're a kid, like some people, may have had trials earlier on, but I feel like I was just kind of coasting in my life until I was like 17 or 18. So when trials really started in my life, that's when I started to reconnect with Spiritism, and Spiritism began to show me that trials are a normal part of life and that they're necessary for our growth, because left to ourselves, we won't change our bad habits. So often we have to go through difficult things to change our bad habits, and Spiritism kind of showed me the way with that, and how it's just, that's how life is, and we should celebrate that and not, you know, be sad that we have to go through that, because every trial will make you stronger and bring you closer to happiness.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's one thing that's really important for us and all the adults in the room to know, is that youth, you know, they tend to go through the Spiritist Center with their families, and they're being dragged there, right? Sometimes they don't want to go, you're dragging them, I get it, right? There's conflicts. And then after they graduate high school, they go off, they're doing different things, and a lot of young adults leave the Spiritist Center because they're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to understand who they are. Do I actually believe this, or were my parents bringing me? But like Leo said, it's so important because they do have that toolkit with them. So when there's trials and there's tribulations in their lives, they do remember those lessons, even if they're not at the Spiritist moment in that moment, because they're exploring other things, they're finding the world around them. You know, they go back to that and they'll find the center as well, because they have that within them, that tool. So it's still really important to make sure all the youth have that tool, even if they aren't actively at the Spiritist Center at any point in their lives. But sticking on the topic of personal growth, Gabby, I'd love to ask you, how does Spiritism influence your ability to empathize with other people, especially during conflict, like Otavio was telling us?
Spiritist has showed me how everyone has something going on in their life. So whether you see it or not, everyone has something happening. And you have to have empathy towards them, because you have to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And even though sometimes that may be very hard, sometimes showing a little bit of empathy can help a person feel better and sometimes be kinder towards you. And sometimes their struggles are they're personal to them, and them being mean to you has nothing to do with you yourself. It has to do with what they're going through in their life. So you have to have empathy and compassion to understand that everyone has something going on in their life, and that's just how life works, and everyone has their own plan, and sometimes life gets difficult and you have to be able to help people through tough times.
Thank you so much. Yeah, again, that reoccurring theme of, right, even the youth go through challenges and, you know, have difficult relationships or conflicts. And it's important though, right, like we're saying, to try and see where the other person's coming from. Because the same way we're trying to give ourselves the credit of, okay, we're coming from different experiences, right? Why is this happening to me? Take a second to think about, why is this happening to the other person, right? What are they going through in their lives? And a topic we've been talking about all throughout the event today is immortality, the lens of immortality. So, Otavio, circling back to you, how has knowing about this concept of immortality, how has that influenced your approach to handling life's challenges?
Well, I think we all here are aware that our spirits are immortal, and that when we make mistakes on earth, we will always have a chance to come back here, because God is merciful and kind to all his sons, which are us. And since we know that our spirit is immortal and that we should act with good intentions only, we should not take advantage of the ability of reincarnating, because reincarnating is a gift and a lesson. The earth is known as the world of trials and expiations, as I said before, so coming here is pretty challenging. But if we follow the instructions that God and Jesus left us, and especially from the gospel according to Spiritism, we will reach unimaginable places where the higher spirits are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a really profound answer that I think really summed up a lot of what we've been talking about today, of how that concept of immortality and reincarnation can help us in our lives. And I loved what you said, right? It's a gift. It's not to be taken, taken for granted. It's a chance for us to start over, but we don't have to wait either, right? We can start right now. We don't have to wait for the next incarnation to start doing better, trying to do, make a change. So in this concept, we've been talking about personal growth, how this applies to our lives. Leo, how does Spiritism guide your journey in continuous personal growth?
So Otavio mentioned the gospel of Christ, and the gospel of Christ is, I think, the center of Spiritism, because as we know in Spiritism, Christ is the one who brought Spiritism to us. So when we're talking about continuous evolution, we're trying to get closer and closer to Christ, right? That's what I believe, and that's how Spiritism guides my life, so that I know Spiritism, the cool thing about it is that it summarizes very simply what our two biggest faults are, right? Which is selfishness and pride. So we know that we suffer because of our selfishness and our pride, and we know that the way away from that is through charity, through love, which is what Christ teaches. So that's it. Get away from pride and selfishness and move towards love, move towards being with Jesus, and that's it. That's the way to happiness.
Easy peasy, right?
Yeah, super easy.
And, right? It sounds super easy. I would love to know, Leo, is it always easy for you to do that? Do you ever find challenges in that?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I'm at a place now where I consider myself lucky that I have difficulties, because it keeps me from settling into a position where just getting stagnant and not caring about my future and not caring about doing the right thing. So through difficulties, now I see that as okay, well, I got to keep going, right? I got to keep working on myself. So it is always difficult, and life is full of challenges, but you can start to see the beauty in that, and that's when I think you get to a truly happy place, is when you're well, this is going to be kind of difficult, but it's going to be worth it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that answer. And I think another thing that Spiritism can give all of us, and that helps all of us as we're finding our place in this world, as we're getting through our challenges, is figuring out our sense of purpose. Right? Because a lot of people can be lost, as we've heard panelists talk about today, of why am I going through these challenges? Why is this thing happening to me? Or why am I not that, we were talking about the writer, or the being good at math, or different positions, right? Why am I not that person? Why am I going through? And learning about Spiritism can help give you this sense of purpose. So, Gabby, I would love to turn to you. How does knowing you have a purpose on this earth right now, in this incarnation, how can that help you handle life ups and downs?
I think a main point is knowing that everything happens for a reason, and it's to help me evolve in my path of evolution and to grow as a spirit, and trusting that God has a plan for me, and that this is just part of my journey that I need to go through to become a higher spirit. And I think knowing your morals as a spiritist, knowing what you think is right or wrong, helps with how you handle life's up and downs, because you know what you think you should be doing that will help you to continue your path of evolution and what God would want you to do.
Absolutely, right? It gives us that sense of purpose of knowing, even if we don't know why, that we're going through this for a reason, or we have a reason to be here. We might not know why, as we're growing up, as we're exploring, and even the adults you're growing up too, as we're growing up, all figuring out the world around us, what we're doing, right? You don't always know. But having Spiritism to know that there is a purpose, even if I don't know it right now, there's a purpose for the things that I'm doing, the reason that I'm here right now. And Bettina, what advice would you give to other young people who may feel disconnected with their spiritual path?
Yeah, so this question is very near to me because I relate to it a lot, related to it a lot. Because as you said before as well, a lot of, the youth, young people, they feel like they're being forced to go to centro, they're forced to learn, the doctrine and really be involved in it. But I think that my main advice would be realizing that it's not logical for you to want your personal journey to be like everybody else's, because your spiritual path is individual to you. Like someone in your family, maybe they're a medium, maybe they're super involved, and you may not want to go that path. And that's totally fine. Allow yourself to have that moment to really decide where you want to go and what you want to do with new things you learn as well. Open up to new possibilities, new hobbies, meditation maybe, set a routine for prayer and study more about the doctrine. I think that that's this period of disconnect may help a lot of young people truly figure out what their path may be in Spiritism, because that definitely helped me a lot. And I think that's the biggest advice that I have for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. I love how you talked about how, right, a disconnect can be good for us, because sometimes when we're lost and we're disconnected, it gives us that moment to reflect on, okay, what do I believe? What can help me in this situation? So, and right, finding your own path. And that's what a lot of the youth are here today, right? I'm sure some of you were dragged here, some of you wanted to come here, whatever it is, but at a certain point, you get to decide, right? We're not imposing this. You get to decide if this is something that you want to follow, that you want to continue in, or if not, that's okay too, right? You have those key concepts that's going to continue helping you in your life, continue to be a better person. But it's okay, right, that there's these moments that we might feel disconnected, but it's good that we have this ability to reconnect if we want to, if we choose to. And it's almost more powerful once we get to the point that we say, yes, I'm choosing this. I'm no longer being forced here. I'm choosing this. I do believe in it, and I want to go this path. So I really loved that. Thank you. Bettina mentioned it a little bit, Leo. I would love to know, what Spiritist practice do you find most effective for maintaining inner peace?
So I guess I'll share, a personal story of how my faith started to grow a lot. I used to have panic attacks. I had a lot of anxiety and I had panic attacks and stuff like that. And this was part of those trials where I was I need some help with this, which is how I began to reconnect with Spiritism. But I began to pray. I began to pray to the higher spirits. I wasn't sure. There wasn't a specific higher spirit, but I was just asking the higher spirits for help. And that began to soothe my anxiety. And when I had a panic attack and I prayed and I realized that through prayer, I can be healed of that, that was a big moment in my life, because I realized that it's true, right? Everything that we learn here is true. And all of these mental health problems that we have, reconnecting with our faith, to me is the most sure way to heal those problems, right? Because I believe that getting closer to God, getting closer to Christ, and walking the path of love, that's it. That's the key to, soothing the heart and the mind. So prayer is a big one. Practicing the gospel, practicing love your neighbor, making that attempt to love your neighbor, to love your enemies. That attempt will just immediately start to bring about inner peace. And it's just like a snowball effect where it just gets easier as you get more and more victories, right? Because sometimes you're just going through a difficult you're dealing with someone difficult, like we all do. And, you know, in a moment of, if you are able to show restraint, if you're able to extend a helping hand to someone that it might be difficult to extend a helping hand to, those little victories, they add up, and eventually there's just a lot less obstacles within you to loving your neighbor, and you just begin to feel peace. So that's what I would recommend to anybody.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's so important for you to talk about, right? Because earlier, and again, just relating to how these youth do have insight to these adult topics, because earlier today, right, we were talking about mental health, and we were talking a little bit, there was a question, right, about how religion can play a part in our mental health journey, and having that in many forms, right, and that doesn't have to be directly Spiritism, but having that connection, that way that we can connect to a higher being, something that brings us back down to earth, calms us down, and Spiritism, right, goes further and helps explain to us that help and that calm that we get when we have that moment of prayer, have that moment of peace. But it's so important to note, right, that you can do that anywhere, anytime to help you. Thank you so much for sharing. In a similar vein, I think when we meditate and when we pray, we're kind of having a moment of self-reflection. So, Bettina, I would love to ask you, how do you take that time to self-reflect when you're making important life decisions?
So I deal a lot, like, you know, Leo also said, I have a lot of anxiety. So I've struggled a lot with prayer throughout, I guess, like after, you know, like my early years, there's a nightly prayer, you know, Our Father and all that. After some time, I started being very distant from it, which is also like referencing back to the disconnect. And now that I feel a lot closer to spirituality, it's definitely still hard for me to step back and kind of analyze the whole situation. But I think changing the way that I view prayer and Spiritism, that helped me a lot to be able to now rely on my faith to make those decisions. To, like, you know, again, like Abby said, to be able to be like, okay, yeah, there's a plan for me. It's, you know, set. I just need to make the step forward and have trust in my guides and my mentors, in God, that everything's going to be okay. And, you know, that calms me down so I can really make that step forward to, like...
Yeah, totally. No, I totally agree. It's so good to have that moment of self-reflection, of reflecting on, right, what Spiritism teaches us, to have that moment of prayer, of meditation. And I think it's in that moment, right, that, like we were talking about, it's about personal growth. It's about what we're going through in our lives. And sometimes, even if we feel alone, we can help ourselves with the doctrine. We can help ourselves. We can get those Spiritist teachings to help us, to guide us, connect with the higher spirits. And even if we may feel totally alone, we're not, right? Because we have that to console us and to help us in our journey. But I love how you were all talking about how you really do apply these to your daily personal lives. And in, you know, growing up in Spiritism in the US, you're not in classrooms with people who are all Spiritists. You're not always with Spiritists. You don't go to work or sports or school with people who even know what Spiritism is. So having these tools that you can use in your lives, that you don't even have to, you know, you don't have to mention it to Spirit. You don't have to say to someone about Spiritism to just do a quick prayer before something, before a test, before a sports game, like we've been talking about, right? It's something that you can apply in any aspect of your life, even if those around you, right, might not be Spiritist or might not have that spiritual connection. Otavio, can you share a time where faith and hope helped you persevere through a difficult topic, through a difficult time?
Well, at first, I was reluctant to talk about this topic because it always made me feel fragile and vulnerable. But I feel safe to share with all of you. So, thank you guys. Well, it was like 2 years ago when my grandpa, who is a very special person to me, was going through a kidney transplant surgery, and I was very afraid that he wasn't going to make it. So I thought to myself, what could I do to help him go through this time, and also me to go through this time. So I prayed very hard every day, and I thought about it, that my grandpa wasn't doing a great job taking care of his body, which consequently gave his spiritual body a hard time. Because when you don't take care of your actual body, like on earth, your spiritual body also goes through a hard time. So I asked God, our Heavenly Father, if he could forgive my grandpa, who has a huge heart, that he did it unconsciously. He didn't know that he was giving his spiritual body a hard time. So I asked God if he could forgive my grandpa. Then I waited for the surgery, and eventually, thankfully, it all went well. And I kept thinking. I'll be like, kind of, forgive me for my language, but I thanked my guy up there a lot, you know. I was very informal with God, which is not usual, but I think that's my relationship with him, you know. I just feel connected with God when I think about it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And I love what you said, right? Our connection with God doesn't have to be formal. It has to be a way that we feel connected. So I love that. Gabby, going back to a question that we asked Bettina, but I would also like to ask you, what advice would you give to young people who feel disconnected with that spiritual path?
So earlier this year, I did not feel very connected at all, and I felt it in myself. I was not happy with anything I was doing in my life. I did not have fulfillment in school, sports, friendships, and something that I think really changed that was my mindset on things. I used to I still do because I'm 14, so, but not always wanting to go to Sam's, or not wanting to get up early Sunday morning, not wanting to, drive 15 minutes. But one of my friends is laughing at me because she has to drive an hour. But changing my mindset to know that, yeah, it sucks to have to get up early, but the spirits that are there are good spirits, and I know that if I go there and I know that if I go, I will get the help I need. And especially during that time in my life, I think when I went, I was my happiest there because I would sit, we have this basement in my church, I would sit there and I would pray. And I remember there was this one prayer that I did, and it was to myself. And I felt so connected that I felt like I wasn't even in the room anymore. I felt so connected to God. And I feel like my mindset helped attract the good energy. And from like that point on, I started to try to cut out the toxic parts of my life, like friends that weren't helping me with my spiritual path, or activities that I was doing. Like I used to do the sport, and it definitely hurt my mental health, and I think it deeply affected the way that I acted. And once I started to cut those toxic parts of my life out, I started to feel so much happier and lighter, and I started to just feel myself again. And just knowing that God and Jesus and your guardian angel always want to help you, you just have to be able to accept their help and know that they want for you to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you all so much for all these wonderful insights. And before we head out, I want to ask you all one final question. What is one key takeaway or piece of advice that you would offer to someone who's just been beginning to explore their spiritual path or Spiritism in general? I'll start with you, Otavio. We'll go in order here. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Actually, I have two takeaway keys. And one is that you actually believe that God exists and you can connect yourselves with Him. And the other one is that you read the Gospel According to Spiritism. It's a great book, and it will teach you to follow the core values of Spiritism and replicate them in your lives.
Thank you. Bettina, how about you?
Yeah, okay. One big thing, I also think I have more than one, but less than three. One big thing I would definitely say study, like, and not like get out the books, get 5 notebooks, like, no, like you could also like start visiting, like trying to see if there's a centro around you. Because, you know, like start visiting, get, if you have one specific subject in Spiritism that you really want to like research about, like see if there's like one specific book that, you know, Kardec has published that really talks or goes in depth about that. I know that for me it was, you know, spirits, because most of my disconnect as well from earlier questions was because I was dealing a lot with like my own spiritual stuff. So I was like, if you want to know more, you know, like go into it, like study, because you're gonna find that there's a lot more interesting things, and it's not gonna be like, you know, like school stuff. It's not like, oh yeah, go research like what happened in 1896. Like there's gonna be like notes and like dates, but don't be so hard on yourself when you start, because I feel like it's a lot different if you're not like growing up in it. So like start with the people, you know, like build community, and I feel like that's really gonna like, it's gonna pull you in, because we're really cool around here, okay, y'all?
I love it. Gabby, what about you?
I think definitely like go to Santru, but have a good mindset. Like, don't go to Santru because you're forced to, even if you are forced to. Go because you know that you'll get help there. And if you're going through a hard time, even if you don't want to talk to someone, like pray, because technically you are talking to someone, just not in person. And definitely prayer will get you the help you need, because then at least you're communicating with a higher spirit that you need help and you're going through a difficult time and you're trying to make a change in your life and you just need a little extra push.
Yeah, thank you. And I think even the adults in the room, right? Sometimes you have a day that you didn't want to go to the centro, right? I'm sure there's a day that you don't want to go, but you get yourself there anyway, right? And then that's what matters, to have that positive attitude once you're there, right? Trying to embrace something, definitely. And Leo, to end us off, what key takeaway or advice would you give?
I always go back to the law of love because in Spiritism, it's the greatest law. I forgot what question is in the Spirit's book, but it says that of all the laws that we study, the law of charity is the greatest one because it's the one that causes our progress the fastest. And the law of love is something that is in the book and it's outside the book because you can take that everywhere you go. You know, you can practice that with anybody and really you don't even have to be Spiritist to practice that. And I think deep down we all know that love is the way no matter who you are. So yeah, the law of love.
Thank you so much. I would like to let our young adult group go back to your class first, so you don't have to, just so they can go first as their group. Thank you all for joining us so much. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for allowing the space for our youth to be here, to be at the front, for allowing these youth to be up at the front, talking to you all of all their amazing insights. So thank you. Alrighty. Thank you all, and I think now we'll turn it. Do you have anything? Oh, Naur has lots of things, but you guys, we can stay right here. No, we'll.
Are you coming back or you're done?
We're done.
You're done, right? Well, another round of applause for this incredible youth, the leadership of the Spiritist movement in the United States. Not in the future, but right now. Now, this is not in the script. If you are a parent, stand up. So I'd like to acknowledge you for not only giving the gift of life to your children, but also giving the gift of Spiritism to create resilient, happy young adults. Now, are there any educators here in the room? Stand up. Now, I acknowledge you for your dedication to these children. Thank you very much. Well, back to the script. It was a real joy to watch the Spiritist Youth panel, sincerely. It's truly inspiring to see so much warmth, knowledge, and dedication from young people. They are a shining example that the future of Spiritism, and the present too, is in great hands. Keep shining and spreading that light. It is time now for our 30-minute coffee break. So don't forget to check the great books outside for sale, especially according to my friend here, the Gospel According to Spiritism. And this is our last break. So if you haven't yet gotten your parking, oh, I lost mine already. Your parking validation, do it now to get your discount at the parking lot. Also, it's an opportunity to get your book signed by the authors who are here today. And the sales will be closed when the symposium ends. Enjoy your coffee break, and we'll resume our activities promptly at 4:20. Yes, take the kids. No, for the break, no. No, I don't think so. No.
Excellent. Find your chair. It's hard to stop talking when you have found these best friends that you loved through many lifetimes, right? So it's hard to break off and come back into your seats. But needs must, and we are moving forward with the symposium. All right. Our next panel is going to be a first-time event. What we are doing is we are bringing together the perspectives of the adults and the youth in one single panel. It's going to be interesting to see what combusts with all that, huh? And we think that people will enrich our discussions with different perspectives, and we'll have a diverse range of insights, experiences, and wisdom. And so to introduce the people who are in this new panel, I welcome back to the stage, enthusiastically, our youth MC, Sofia de Oliveira, okay? Back to the stage and with a very warm welcome now that everyone is back in their seats. Come on in.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I'm thrilled to be part of the inauguration of this new format. We will watch a discussion on the theme, Spiritism, a Philosophy for Us. Together, our friends will explore how the understanding of the soul's immortality can inspire a more tolerant and universally fraternal world, reshaping our approach to life, both here and in the afterlife. As the moderator for this panel, let me introduce Jana Machado. Jana Machado is a board member of the Spiritist Society Seeds of Light in Fort Myers, Florida, a board member and part of the Children and Youth Committee of the Spiritist Federation of Florida. Jana considers herself to be an ongoing learner and apprentice of Spiritism. Everybody, Jana.
Thank you, everyone. I must say that my heart is pounding. But thank you so much for the opportunity. Today, we have the greatest opportunity to do something new, and I am very happy to be part of this. So let's introduce, I'm going to start with introducing Marcelo Netto. So Marcelo Netto holds a bachelor degree in mechanical engineering. He is currently the vice president of the Spiritist Federation of Florida, the president of Leal and Fab Publisher, the vice president of Conscious Living Spiritist Group in Florida. Marcelo is also the board, part of the board in Dimension of the Way in Brazil. Marcelo. I would like to invite Rebecca DaSilva. She is an undergraduate student at UNC Chapel Hill, already with a CNA license. She has been a member of the Allan Kardec Spiritist Society of Maryland's youth group since 2017. She intends to use Spiritist teachings in both her personal and professional lives as an inspiring travel nurse. Rebecca. Gabriel Macedo. Gabriel is from Florida. Recently graduated from Olympic Heights High School in Florida. He is a member of the Spiritist Center Chico Xavier, working as a youth educator. Gabriel is also part of the International Spiritist Council youth group. He plays the piano and loves the divine beauty of classical music. Last but not least, our dear friend, Lia Gouveia. She is an active worker of the U.S. Spiritist movement and vice president of the Spiritist Society of North Beach in Maryland since its incorporation in 2009. Lia manages enterprise applications and holds a bachelor of Computer Science, Leah. I would like to add just something. It is such a pleasure to be here. We were talking how we were gonna do this, and we thought about, since it's a nice, cold Saturday, rainy, it feels like an informal conversation on our living room. So this is what we're going for. We are friends and, we consider family. So I will start off reading the first paragraph from chapter 1 of Heaven and Hell. The future life in nothingness. We live, we think, we act. That is certain, and we die. That is no less certain. But where do we go when we leave this earth behind? What it will be like for us after death? Will we be better off or worse? Will we even exist or not? Being or not being? Such is the alternative, forever or nevermore, all or nothing. We will live forever, or will everything end once and for all? Is it even worthwhile to think about all this? So with this question, I would like to start off asking Marcelo, because since we're talking about the gift of, life through the lenses of immortality, what best way to start bringing, this passage from Heaven and Hell?
First of all, I would like to thank the invitation that was made for the Spiritist Federation of United States. It's a great honor to be here, and it gives me a lot of emotion because I see a room full of chairs, not only empty, but full of chairs, anxious to make a decision and a change in their lives. And I'm also joining this group. This was an idea that Jana had a few minutes ago. I'm going to read this passage from the Heaven and Hell. She changed a little bit the course just to give us a little anxiety, but
inspiration,
but
it's
great. It's great. But I think this is exactly why we are all here. We can maybe go travel in life, and maybe 176 years ago, if my math is not right, is not wrong. The Fox sisters, something happened in Hydesville. The conversation among the sisters and a spirit by the name Charles Rosner, and a lot of discussions, a lot of anxieties. The priest, the demons are being manifested in that specific room, in that specific house. And then this phenomenon took place, and all newspapers are spreading all kind of news, good and bad, while we travel the Atlantic Ocean, and we see a few years later the turning tables taking place, and a different phenomena taking place, but making a different kind of approach in the minds of the ones that are experiencing something that actually they didn't know exactly what it is. And then came Allan Kardec, opened the veil of immortality. I see the topic, life through the lens of immortality, and we are trying to see through the lens of Spiritism a different kind of immortality, a way of interpreting nature, unveiling before us its nature, so we can understand the law of nature and being more active in a way that we never thought before. Yes, there is life after death. There is nothingness, as Allan Kardec mentioned in this first chapter of Heaven and Hell. And by the way, I recommend reading this book, because in the first portion of this book, Kardec makes an analysis of so many religions and the way these religions analyze immortality There's life after death. There's nothing after death. And because of all the phenomena that are taking place, and we see the proof, we heard Humberto, we heard Jussara, we heard so many topics being brought over here, but not only the speeches that they brought to us, when we see the rational way that Allan Kardec brought, the way that the scientific method that he uses to prove that there is life after death. In fact, there is hope. And all the suffering that we might be experiencing nowadays, it's just temporarily. Materialistic idea that took place in many places in the world, especially in the social media, in philosophical way of thinking and academic. This is no place for a soul that actually see that there is a future, and this future is bright. It's bright. We are children of God. I know, and I was listening to the kids, young adults with a lot of wisdom and bringing us so many experiences. And I remember my days with the hormones are kicking so much, and we thought that we know everything, but we don't know everything. Even nowadays, I'm younger, more time than them, and I still don't know everything. But I have a roadmap. The roadmap is Spiritism. So that's why we are here. Dive into these books, and you will see, making analysis, not that the way that we used to analyze in the past, in the different time of our existence. Analyze with rational way of thinking, because we are destined to be happy. I talk too much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcelo. It is even hard to follow after that, but I'll do my best. I just want to say that I forgot, because I was nervous, I forgot to say that we will have, after this, the session for Ask Me Anything. So please have your questions ready, raise your hand, volunteers will get it, and then after it will be answered. So moving on, now I want to ask Leah. I mean, Leah is such a dear friend. So when we knew that we were going to work together, we were like, yay. I have a question for you. Why is it Spiritism an important, what is the importance of the Spiritist philosophy for us?
So thank you, Jana. It is, first of all, I'm very happy to be here among dear friends from both realms of life. And this is what I like so much in Spiritism, because it is the result of a collective effort. So no one really works alone. We are all together, learning with one another, polishing each other. And Spiritism is really a philosophy for life, a new way of living a materialistic life, with lens to the immortality as the theme. It changes everything, because we live our day-to-day in a different way, with different perspectives. Even though we wake up every morning, we go to work, and we live in a world that's very competitive and materialistic speaking, we still try to do our best. How can I do better today? So how can I improve myself today? How can I build a legacy, among my coworkers, among my friends, my family? And it's amazing, and as Uncle Marcelo was talking about his kids, we have here the youth of the body, and someone not so youth on the body, but maybe in spirit is still trying to learn and become better. And this is something we also learn with Spiritism. This package means nothing. We are immortal spirits. We lived so many times, so many lives, so many experiences. Maybe now we have a feminine body. Maybe we are, biologically speaking, in a youth body. But maybe these guys here have more experience than myself. They are wiser than myself. So it invites us to really look beyond what our eyes see, you know. Another thing it was coming to mind, we were all becoming prepared to come here and all nervous because we do not want to disappoint Jesus and the spirits that entrust this task to us. And I was thinking, I think it's the feeling that we had when we had the blessing, the opportunity to reincarnate another time. You know, the spiritual friends were there. Go, you can do better now, and you're so afraid because you think you are going to fail again, and you think you are not prepared. So here, each one of us here, we are here to give our contribution, even if it's very small. We are truly honored, truly blessed, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Leah. So I will change the order of what we already had it previously. Just because, you know, I feel like we need to dive right in, you know, with the youth. So I will ask Rebecca, in what ways can teenagers apply Spiritist principles in their daily lives?
Hi, first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for the opportunity. And it's so nice to see all of you here. Thank you so much for coming. So first of all, I would say that it's for striving, not for perfection, but for progress and improvement. Since we're all just on stepping stones and it's all gradual change, knowing that change isn't gonna happen overnight, but it's the effort and the intent, like they were talking about in the first panel especially. And that's just how we're gonna improve throughout. And I think keeping that in mind, especially going to college at a pretty competitive place, there's a lot of competition between one another, and we have to remember that we're all on our own journeys and just going up those stairs, and yeah.
All right, thank you. I wish I had the opportunity to get to know Spiritism on my teenage years. I was already a young adult, but I am still very grateful for it. And I can see the huge impact on teenagers' life, kids, knowing these principles, because when you are out there, you make better choices. So thank you, Rebecca. Gabriel, what are the ways that teenagers can handle going through this planetary transition?
Hello. Okay, before I even answer that, I would love to congratulate all the teens that are here just watching. I am so proud of you for actually coming here. That's dedication. Okay, so we have to remember that when we go through this planetary transition, it's completely normal, right? It's part of evolution, right? The law of progress. And we have to remember that everything is happening for a reason, whether you think the reason's bad or the reason's good. My mom's taking a picture. All right. So, anything that's happening through this planetary transition, anything that's happening to you, with anyone, with your family, it's completely natural. You have to have faith. You have to have faith in God. You have to have faith in Jesus. And you have to trust your mentors. And you have to trust yourself and know thyself and know what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So one of the Spiritist principles is that God is good and just. With that in mind, I want to ask Leah, which is two questions combined. The first is, if God is unique, why are there cultures worshiping multiple gods? If God is just and good, why does God not stop bad things to happen?
Hello?
Okay.
right here. So as you can see, she picks easy questions for me. So here we go. This concept of God, we can learn on the Spirit's book what God is and not who He is, and the attributes of God. And there are a lot of philosophers trying to answer this question, right? If God is good and just, why we have so many injustices, so much evil in the world. And then it comes the idea that, oh, it is the absence of goodness, like darkness is the absence of light. It is up to us, human beings, who received, the task to co-create, to do the material work here, to have free will, to build a better world. So everything that we see that is not good and just does not come from God. It comes from us, human beings that are still very imperfect. They're still going this path of evolution. But there is hope, and when I see all these youth here as a result of education, years and years of teachers here explain to them that there is God and God is just and good and there is Jesus and spiritual friends. It gives us a lot of hope for better days to come. Because we all agree that we have developed so much, our intelligence, our technology, but how about our feelings, our conflicts, our emotions is still the same. The same questions that the old philosophers were asking at their time, we're still asking nowadays. So I think it's about time for us to really start acting and changing. We say that Jesus is our model and guide, and I was thinking, I think he's the biggest philosopher that we had incarnating here. Just think about his messages, his teachings, his parables, his example. He never condemned anyone. He never divided anyone. I mean, he didn't create Christianity or religion, right? He teaches love, how to love one another. And I think this is what we need to learn, how to love one another, how to spread goodness, how to spread joy and hope. And the youth here, it's a big responsibility for them to build a better world, that previous generations were not so good to leave this legacy for you. But also we learn through the lens of spirituality that we have the blessing of reincarnating, coming back here. So whatever we adults did not do, we are going to have new chances to do. So we have to hold hands and help build a better society. When I was a teenager, because believe it or not, I was a teenager in the past. I'm still are in some ways, but I remember I was 15. It was my first job, and I used to ask so many questions, so many philosophical questions. And my coworker used to say, in a very kind way, little flower, if you keep asking so many questions, you are going to starve yourself or going to become crazy. So as clear you can see, I did not starve myself, a little crazy still, but just to say we still have all these questions that we want to know where we came from, what we are doing here, where we are going. And Spiritism and the good spirits explain and answer this to us, and this is wonderful. So we have to benefit from this knowledge, but not just to become intellectuals discussing these philosophical ideas. We need to put in practice in our day-to-day, okay? And when is our time to leave this world, at least know that we are living a little bit better, and the world is also a little bit better because we incarnated here. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. taking that answer, into consideration, I'm going to kind of try to link to another topic, because we all know God is just, God is good, yes. And then there comes the topic about free will. We heard about it before. So I would like to ask our teams, their view about free will, because, we adults kind of have our view, so I would love, to hear about you guys. So Gabriel, how do we exercise our free will correctly?
Are you guys ready for the short answer? By acting correctly. Okay, no, all seriousness. Before I even get into that topic, question 459 from the Spirits book. How much do spirits influence our daily lives? More than we would imagine, for it is often they who direct us. We are under the influence of spirits all the time, whether the spirits are good or bad, our mentors or not our mentors. But some people say, well, if it's often they who direct us, then we technically don't have free will, right? Wrong. You have free will. It's like a person telling you, hey, do this. That's like a suggestion. It's like if you go do it, you're using your free will to do it. But if you don't do it, that's also your free will, right? So everything that you choose, every single one of your choices is you making it. It's you who's acting upon it, right? Not just by words, but by thoughts too. Remember, thinking, your thoughts also have a very powerful force. And guess what? By acting. Okay, so anything that you do, acting good or bad, is going to take effect upon you and other people.
I'm speechless.
See, he playing piano.
Yes. Rebecca, so okay, found it. Why is the concept of free will important for spirits in their journey?
So I think that free will is an extremely important concept when it comes to the law of progression as spirits, because without free will, we don't get a choice in how we want to proceed. And does that even mean that we evolve if we don't have the choice? And I think that it's an extremely great opportunity that God is giving us each life to perform our free will and try again and again until we start choosing correctly. And it depends on how much effort we put into those actions and those steps, and not just believing in a philosophy and actually being part of it.
Thank you. So today's topic, the main topic, we're focusing about the philosophy of Spiritism, but we all know, and for the ones who does not know, we do have three important aspects: philosophical, religion, science. I needed your help, because the next question is about science. Marcelo, can you help us and answer us, if you could, how can science prove immortality?
Well, we are in Boston. A lot of research being done, not only here, but so many places around the US. How can you explain your death experiences? And more than ever, we see researchers going through this direction. I had the privilege to participate, I am not a scientist, but in a experiment following some scientists in Pennsylvania, where some events and some kind of like mediums were being researched, being injected some kind of contrast, exactly. Do you know the research, right? This was in 2007, and basically, for example, we heard a lot about mediumship, and a certain portion of the brain are being utilized when we are conducting any intellectual activity, especially the frontal lobe. Forgive me, any doctors over here, if it's the frontal, the lateral, please. Oh, they told me it's a frontal, so please bear with me. The frontal lobes to be like actively performing, a lot of connections, a lot of synapses are being happening at the same time, so we can conduct any intellectual activity. But these mediums, when they were analyzed in a deep trance, the portion of the brain they're actually supposed to be functioning, performing intellectual activity, were actually not functioning properly, almost null. So this is only one example. We heard about, like, I don't remember which one said something about, like, Dr. Ian Stevenson talking about reincarnation, Jim Tucker following his steps. There's other researchers in Florida especially conducting examinations about, like, near-death experiences. I have a friend, he's still incarnated. He lives in Florida. he likes to race, car racing. And he suffered a very severe accident like 20, 30 years ago. And he says, like, well, he was in coma. The whole family is Catholic. And they called the priest, what is it called? Like when you... Extremunção. Well, please do the translation. Huh? Less what? That's exactly what Jussara mentioned. Well, the priests were there, the whole family. He was like done, completely done. But a few minutes after, he came back to life, like 15 minutes after he came back to life. Everybody was in shock, was over here, was in Florida, the hospital. And they mentioned, like, well, this is impossible, the brain, everything, the oxygenation. So there's no possibility for him to be alive. But not only that, he described everything that was taking place in the hospital, in the corridors, and even on the roof. He mentioned about something that needs to be fixed in the roof. Oh my God, how come? And then they actually went upstairs, because this became like a research, and it's on the medical journals, and you guys can do the research. Ask me out after I see the clock is ticking, and I have a few minutes to say and summarize the whole thing.
Maybe a few seconds.
Yes. And this is only one experiment that we can see that science is approaching the reality that we are all having so long time ago knowledge when Allan Kardec brought us the Spiritist codification. Don't believe me, do the research. But more than that, read the books, the first book. I can relate very much with your case, because when I was 15 in the downtown Rio de Janeiro, I was brought up in a Catholic family. I was having a conversation with a dear friend of mine. He was the religion teacher. He was a Benedictine monk in St. Francis monk. They were three of us, like, having a conversation in downtown Rio de Janeiro. I'm from Rio de Janeiro. Nobody's perfect, but, well, I was having a conversation, and I was 15, and I asked Don Cirilo, why so much inequality? And I saw across the street a lady, she was like carrying a baby. She was like miserable. It says, like, well, maybe she made bad choices, but if the soul is created in the beginning of the birth, like in the beginning of the join of the conception, right? Thank you very much. The conception. How come this little girl are experiencing exactly the same kind of suffering, maybe worse than her mother? And he gave me one of the most intelligent answers that I ever heard. I was 15, no knowledge about Spiritism. You know that I all have all these questions. One day, we all gonna learn, and we all gonna know the answers. I think there is in the book. I see. Now I know that me might be reading the Spirit's book. And then he says, like, do you believe that God is infinitely good and just? Yes, I am. Of course, I have to agree, otherwise it's going to be zero in religion. But now I really wholeheartedly believe that God is supremely good and just. So all the sufferings that we are having and we are facing is temporarily. To the young kids, hold on hold your horses, and be very diligent, building something different inside of you, because you are the future. I'm becoming old, I'm tired. I want someone to conduct the rest of the movement, and then, speaking a much better English than my English, disseminate this.
Always, and I always have to stop him and say his English is just fine. Better than fine.
Thank you very much.
I was like, we only have about 2.5 minutes, so we will wrap it up, and I will do a question, and maybe if you can do like, a phrase or something. One of the questions we have is how to be a good spiritist. So I would like, you starting with Leah, and that will be our final statement because we have 2 minutes. Gabriel.
Well, I'm trying to be a good spiritist, a good Christian, which is exactly the idea of, okay, what can I do today better compared with what I did yesterday? So keep working, doing daily efforts, and when we make mistakes, do not beat ourselves, I think we also need to be gentle, kind with ourselves, and patient, because we cannot really change from one day to another. So there are automatisms, there are things we have been doing for many, many lives. So it's not just now that I become aware that I'm going to be able to change, but awareness is the first step. So first I become aware, I get to know myself, so I can recognize few things that I already know how to do well, other things that I need to improve, things that I need to completely change. So first is the self-knowledge, the awareness, and after you start working to make changes, but being patient, knowing that you have eternity, you are not going to die, and this is the beauty of this concept of immortality and reincarnation. Even if I arrive at the end of my life and I realize that, oh, I made the only mistakes, I can always start over, and I'm going to have a new body, new conditions, new ways of educating my spirit, my soul. So it's, by now, I think all of us, we are very blessed because we have this knowledge. And this knowledge is to be used for our betterment, but also to share with others. There are so many people out there in need of these words, of these consolations. And the best way is really by example, by being kind to one another.
Okay, so our time is up, but I would like to ask permission to have at least the 2 young people to give a very short statement on how to be a good spiritist, if you guys allow us.
Practice the teachings of Jesus, everything that he has taught us. That is the key to being a good, not just a good spiritist, but a good person in general. Mm-hmm. And to study spiritist books also, like the Codification of Allan Kardec. Sophia, the youth MC, was bugging me. She was because last year in the symposium on the youth panel, she was saying how I was enforcing so much about reading other books. Yes, I'm reinforcing it, Sophia. So, when you read literally the first book, the Spirit's book, it's going to open your mind to other books. Get trusted authors like Camille Flammarion, Leon Denis, Divaldo Franco, Chico. All those books are going to help you with all the questions that you have.
Thank you.
Hi, so as our last final remarks, first of all, I'd like to say, does it do more good or does it do more harm? And think about if everyone did the same actions as you, would the world be a better place or would it be worse? And then my second, really quickly, is what my mom always says, who's watching online, hi. By Haroldo. It's knowing that our life is a garden. So we have lots of different gardens, one for work, one for relationships, one for school, one for career, like lots of stuff. So we know that some are flourishing and some are not, but we have Spiritism there to guide us while we're going through all of it. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and I loved being part of this panel with all of you, and thank you.
Thank you once more for this wonderful panel. Now, throughout the day, we have been told that you have an opportunity to ask any questions. The moment has come. So I'm going to invite back to the stage Marcia and Jana, who's going to introduce the panelists for the Ask Me Anything panel.
I am back. So it's up to you. If you have no questions, I'll be waiting. There we go. And at this point, I just wanted to invite back, and I'm not going to reintroduce because we're short on time, but let's have Jussara Korngold coming back. Thank you, Jussara. Dan Assisi, still not going to introduce you. And finally, Luiz Lima, who's been working all day in the back. Thank you, Luiz. So for those of you who has not met Luiz has begun his journey in Spiritism since 1990. And as a serious researcher on the scientific aspect of Spiritism, Luiz has been facilitating the studies of how to bridge science and Spiritism in both languages, Portuguese and English. Luiz is a renowned lecturer in the Spiritist movement and participates in local and national seminars, conferences, events all year round. Let's give a warm welcome to the panel. Yes, this is session number 6. The end is in sight. And I just want to say, yes, the end is near, but the sky is not falling. We are all immortal beings. So this is just a little bit longer that we have together, and this is your chance. Lean in and ask us anything. So I have a lot from last panel and this panel, and I'm going to start with an interesting one. Whoever wants to take this. How can we awaken in today's youth the sense of immortality?
In everything that we do, I think we should lead by example. So it's very easy for us just to come up with a lot of concepts, of course, according to our understanding of life, our knowledge, our experiences. But I think that above all is about, teaching by example. If I do believe in immortality, I will have a certain way of living, of having choices in life, and this is going to impact in the lives of others and how they are going to be perceiving things. So if I want to try to educate my children, in a certain way, like Dan just said earlier, it's so easy for us to say things but not doing. So it's about doing. So I do believe in immortality. I have a certain way and understanding of things, so I will be making choices. And talking about choices and free will, when Gabriel was talking about that, I was thinking that once I read something that is very interesting, and for you, Becky, as well, when we talk about free will and choices. Like they say, if you go to buy ice cream, you have a choice. You can have vanilla, chocolate, or anything. This is a choice. Free will is more related to moral decisions. So just so that, we're not going to let people tease us and say, oh, okay, I'm exerting my free will and I'm choosing an ice cream flavor. No. So that's what I would tell, I would try to, to live up to and to teach by the examples to the youth. I behave this way because I truly believe this way. And so, follow or not.
Awesome. We have several questions on free will. So I'll continue with that. I'll ask Luiz. Luiz, can you talk a little bit about how much, expanding on Gabriel, right? How much our free will is our free will in this lifetime?
Well, let me bring you this first. Imagine that you have to go from your house to the supermarket. And we do this several times a week, a month. And let's say that there are 3 streets that take you from your house to the supermarket. So on the first day, you take street number 1. In the middle of the way, there's this mad dog that wants to run after you, and you're afraid of it, and you say, no, I'm not going any forward, I'm going to just go back. On day 2, you decide, how many choices, how many ways do I have? How many ways do you think, how many possibilities do they have on the second day? 3. The third possibility, the path where the dog is still available. So you go on the second street, and there's somebody that you don't like, you don't want to see that face anymore, and you come back to your house, to your home, and on the third day, how many options do you have? 3. How many options do I perceive that I have? 1. So the inability to see free will is because of ourselves. We kill the free will that we have. Of course, there's influence of God, because God controls our free will indirectly by the law of cause and effect. So when I decided to go street number 2, for example, but that guy lives on that street, I don't want to see his face. That's not God forbidding me to take street number 2. That was my choice. So I killed my own free will, and we do this many, many times. You get the idea. So there's free will and this perception of free will. Free will, everybody has. Perception of free will is different for every person.
Awesome. Now we have a question that came for Mr. Dr. Dan Assisi. Dan, can AI develop free will? And if so, how to see it in the light of the law of responsibility?
Hold. Your question will be taken by the next available agent.
Yes. Let me consult ChatGPT and I get right back to you. But AI can definitely develop free will in many different ways, because if used correctly, like any other tool, it would allow us to make better choices. It could. Not by making the choices for us, not by doing our work for us, but for feeding into the repository of knowledge and things that we have so that we can make a choice about what is it that we want to do. So those who utilize AI best today know that AI is fallible. As a matter of fact, there's these things called hallucinations. It's a great term for AIs. Like, I'll give you an example. There is a book written by a brilliant author out there called Our Road to Damascus, Dan Assisi. Plug. He may not be that brilliant. But anyways, if you ask AI to summarize that book for you, and I have asked AI to summarize my own book for me, ChatGPT got it wrong. Right? Because it doesn't have enough information, because nobody really knows me. Right? There's not information out there. So can you rely on AI to really give you the answers that you want to for your life? No, you cannot. But can you rely on any other book by itself to give you that answer? No. You have to do the Kardashian method of exploration, right? Which Kardec called the universal control of the spirits. Check the different places. Is the patterns that Humberto was talking about before. Does the options that you have ahead of you, can they feed into your processing AI, right? Because that's artificial intelligence, and the good news is that you have like real intelligence, right? That's trying to be more like you, so don't try to be like it, right? The thing is reversed. But so absolutely it can help you by giving you the information, but the information is no longer what's needed. I'm going to shut up after this, but the point is, until this time in history, until the internet, we had trouble coming across information. Gutenberg, with the movable type, had the books and everything else. We could access information all of a sudden. That's great. But that's not what really matters anymore. Is what is the value of information that we are gathering, and what do we make of it? Right? So AI will not solve your problems. It will do lots of wonderful things for you. But the big decisions in your life, who you're going to marry, who you're going to support, AI is not going to do that for you, or should not. Let me just be clear, right? If you're doing the AI thing to find your next match, take that with a grain of salt. So it's about giving it perspective and doing that critical thinking process that we know that we have to develop to be able to then to go ahead and make better decisions.
Thank you. That's awesome. So, Jussara, because I think I have about 100% of questions on free will. So let's wrap it up with how to connect immortality, reincarnation, and free will with evolution.
Oh, yeah, right. No, you were absolutely right, you know. Well, the simple question that was asked, I think it was the reason why Kardec started the whole process of understanding what was behind the whole phenomena that was later called the Spiritism. So it started by segments of understanding the process of immortality by going through a path and a journey of evolution, and knowing that this only simple or reasonable answer that we would have to connect all that would be reincarnation as being the basis of Spiritism. And I don't think I can go further than that. Not at this point.
No, it's good. If we keep with you, Jussara, I have an interesting question here that is framed with, some people need to see it to believe it. Have you ever had an experience that made you believe in Spiritism? But I wanted to maybe twist a little bit to ask, how can we objectively measure or validate our spiritual experiences?
I think it's what we are constantly looking after, you know, more science and answers to validate the fact of all those things that we were talking before, immortality, the existence of spirits, and how is it possible the communication, and now thinking about, you know, the book, Science, Life After Death, that, you know, Humberto, together with two of his colleagues, released as well, and it's here. And Dr. Alexander Morera, I remember that we met Dr. Alexander Morera in one of the congress that the Society of Psychical Research did, I think about 20 or something more years ago, in Virginia, where they were talking about, they were having a congress on mediumship. And what was fascinating is that for the 2 or 3 days that we were there and having, you know, this new take about reincarnation and the psychical research society, there were, you know, people after people that would come and talk about the science and about, an experienced medium and the phenomena that were happening here in one part of the country, and then the other one would come and talk about it again, and talking about the Zappa Palladino and all the famous mediums that we have, and also in the history of spiritualism. And I remember that it came to a point that I said, but they are just repeating over and over and over the same thing. So this is what science does. And I think very much when we talk about the research of Dr. Ian Stephenson and all the others, and like you mentioned, Marcelo, Jim Tucker, and even Dr. Alexander Moreira now, this is the science behind the phenomena that we are expecting to be able to confirm what we already know, not by intuition, because it's not just intuition, it's reason. The whole time Kardec is talking about reason, he's talking about a reasoned faith. So what we have here, and when we are talking about Spiritism and the way of believing and understanding and seeing things, we are talking about this inner knowing. I'm just thinking about Carl Gustav Jung in one of his interviews when the journalist asked about him if he, he believed in God. And he said, I know that God is, right? So in the same way, we know, we feel, we anticipate there is something in us that really validates all that. But if we want miracles to be performed like we have in the Spiritist literature, when they say, why did the spirits do not know, a phenomena, Times Square, for instance, turn off the lights and there is apparition of spirits at Times Square? Because they say it's not going to change anything. And we all combined, we already had all that. Dr. Ian Stephenson alone, he has 2,500 documented cases of reincarnation with proof and everything. But so I think from our perspective, again, like we said at the first answer, let us keep on living, let us keep on giving the example that we are making moral decisions. We have a guide and a model that is Jesus, and with that, when and how the phenomena is going to be widely accepted, it's going to happen. We know that it's going to happen. But the most important phenomena, like Kardec himself says in his Spiritism, is not mediumship, is not the phenomena, is the moral transformation. And we find that in his book where he talks about his travels throughout Europe to disseminate Spiritism.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go back to Luiz, because he's the only bio that I read to all of you. So I don't know if you remember what year he became a Spiritist. Oh, very good. So the question that I have here, when did you decide that you were a Spiritist? Or, it's a 3 or 4 part question. Or, what event made you realize Spiritism was the best belief system in you? Or, how is spirituality evolving in our modern world?
When he noticed that we had cookies.
Oh, yeah. When I decided to follow it, I was taken, by the neck into a Spiritist center to accompany somebody. And there was a guy talking about the book, Evolution in Two Worlds. So he took a piece of the book and he was talking, and because I have a technical background, I was like, oh, that would be interesting. So he started talking about it and so and so. And I go like, I gotta do something about this. I really got interested in this. So I got home, I bought the book right there. I got home and I started reading the book. That was actually the first Spiritist book that I read, Evolution in Two Worlds, which is contrary to anything, you know, that should be. Of course, I couldn't understand everything, but it triggered me because I'm going to get answers here. Because part of the answers are here. I was able to understand a few things about evolution and so, but there's something more. So as I was digging in to find the answers, it's like Kardec, right? He goes to these mediumistic meetings and the answers from something completely different, morality, start to show up. That's how it happened to me. And then at one point, I said, well, if you combine the two things, the third ingredient that it's going to make it happen for me is myself. Because I'm a very technical person, I need rationality, I need reason. And Spiritism is backed 100% by reason. I said, this is it, this is for me. So I should follow this. So then, from that point on, you kind of look at your past and say, let me see other belief systems that I had contact with. And the common thing is, none of them have reason. So I think that was my feet on the ground moment.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So Dan, I'm, you know, reason, let's go outside of reason now. And I'm combining a couple of questions here, but Dan, you know how Spiritism views rituals and, you know, all the practices of our spiritual life. We talked a lot about prayer, we talked about mediumship, etc. And some of us even think that they have inherent power, right? There's this symbolic action that may come to us. But the question here is, in view of all of that, how would the concept of immortality reshape our understanding of life's purpose and the value we place on time and relationship? And I think this really goes to a lot of the youth panel that talked about relationship. How does it all fit, this lack or need for rituals, right? Immortality and spiritism, how do they all combine?
So I think immortality is the incredible piece that really changes everything. Because once you consider that you are an immortal spirit that will outlive this physical body, your perception begins to change. If I know that I will live after this body is gone, and that you, by consequence, will also live, because I'm also aware that you exist, then I understand that my relationship with you will outlive this life, which means I will have to deal with you again, and you would have to put up with me again, which means I should be more tolerant, and so should you. And so we need to work on this thing, right? Because if we're going to live with each other for a very long time, might as well get this thing figured out, because otherwise we're going to come back together, right? Because we got to sort things out. I think with that, it changes our choices. It gives us a macro perspective when we are able to remember that and say, you know, I'm not going to make this choice today that just gives me immediate gratification at the expense of you. I have to factor in that that's going to come and bite me in my spiritual tushy, right? So I begin to make better choices that are informed not by the values I see in the world, by what I know to be true for the long term. Now, is it easy? No, because we forget that we are immortal spirits. That's why things like this are great, because we get to remind ourselves that we are more than meets the eyes. And then it transforms our perspective and understand that what we see here is temporary. So time becomes very tricky, because now you have a scale of perception that is monumental. And so you got to think about like what you want to be, not 2 years from now, but 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. That's right? And also makes you like, oh, I got to make advantage of what I got right now, because this is a beautiful moment that we have where we can work on things. It's like going the days of work, right? You go to work, that's one incarnation. You go back home, you rest, and you go back again. So it really gives you an interesting perspective of time going back and forth. which begs the question of trying to tie in the rituals here really quick, right? Because I'm trying to follow directions. Rituals are powerful tools. They are powerful tools for learning. In our learning journey, sometimes rituals are very helpful because they help frame paradigms and things for us that bring into our understanding of things. When you are a child, when you're learning something, the way we learn is we copy others. That's how we learn. After we begin and we grow a little bit, we get mastery of things, we no longer need to copy people, we no longer need formulas, and we begin to think on our own, and then we begin to question, why is it that I need those rituals? So sometimes when we are in the end of that tunnel, we say rituals are silly because we no longer need them. But we have to respect that there are other people in other points of their learning journey that may benefit from those rituals. In Spiritism, we try to get to the end of the tunnel and say, I don't need a ritual or prescription of how things should be done because I'm trying to understand the reason behind why they are done a certain way. So we try to divest ourselves from rituals because I know that I don't need to dress a certain way to be morally elevated. I don't need to go to a certain place to be with God. And I don't need to say specific words to commune with the sacred. But I also respect those who are on their journey. And that's the toughest thing about free will, which is not free, by the way. You have to earn it. And you're limited by the consequences of what you do. Right? We can talk about this forever, but I will shut up now. Is that you can make choices that align to this immortal you that is beautiful, wonderful, majestic, divine, just like those people around you.
All right. I have a really hard one. You just come at the last minute. But before I go there, I want to ask Dan something. Somebody asked, Spiritism, religion, philosophy, science. Oh my goodness, everything is so serious. Dan, how do you keep being youthful in the face of all that?
How do I what?
Keep yourself being youthful in the face of all that and all life challenges.
Well, thank you for noticing my youthfulness. I wanted to bring my tablet here because earlier I noticed that all the young people had tablets and computers, but I left it over there. Truth is, when we tap into the certainty of the immortality of the soul, it does transform us. It does change. When I get to see you guys year after year and be with people that are trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do, which is be a better person, it is energizing. When I'm able to tune in to these teachings of this figure that is greatly misunderstood, the Christ, I like to call him JC, when I see that with different eyes, I go, wow. And there's a certain energy that comes from it. And I think it's not just mine. It is tapping into the beauty of things that are, and just speaking about this, I get goosebumps. It has a little bit to do with mediumship, because we're all connected, but it also has to do with the joy of understanding who we are and knocking at the door of immortality. You are incredibly amazing. You are an immortal spirit, and you're going to learn so much. How can that not make us happy? I think ultimately that's the thing, right? And I'll shut up now. But you know what I'm saying? This is a moment of joy. And if you don't know these people around you, go talk to them and say hello afterwards. Absolutely. I hope that this is a conference not that you come to, but you go from. So go do something with your life. Great. We're going to be cheering for you.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for amazing questions. We did a couple, not just a couple, but there's a lot more here. And so I'll kindly ask the panelists to send those after the event. I think there's important questions. But I want to say it's almost time to say goodbye. But thank you. Thank you for being here, all of you. Thank you, panelists. And I guess I'll see you next time.
Thank you. It's wonderful. We are careening towards the end of our time together, and we are now going to have a very special moment. The people who've been taking care of your children are going to be coming up here, and they're going to be telling us about the program that was written just for this event. Life Never Ends. So can I welcome to the stage the Spiritist educators? Are they here? Did I just lie? Come here, come. Yeah, it's now. It's now. Welcome them. They're shy, apparently. So, yeah, come on up. Make your way through. Very good. Oh, look at all of them. Yay! Welcome them, right? Woohoo!
No. Lorenzo, you about to have a good day? Lorenzo, you about to have a good day? This is great.
Don't pick on me. Don't pick on me. Testing, testing.
Is this thing on? Hello? I'm about to have a good day in every single way. God who made the universe knows I'm a good day. Maybe in my arms, walking to the neighborhood, living in a river, no one is now standing up, look at what my father does. Gray skies blue, here in the street, dude, I know he's got my back. That's why I'm singing that. Gotta have a good day, good day. Very much to say. Sun is shining down on me. The birds are singing praise. I'm about to have a good day, good day. Better take away. The God who made the universe knows me by my name. So it's a good day. It was great. Everything I made for didn't come in late. I got all I needed. I didn't have to wait. Asked you if you love me, you didn't hesitate. The whole thing's new. Gray skies blue. To the church saying
Well done, well done. Whoa. Okay. Okay, got it. So I'm not seeing Sofia de Oliveira. Oh, you're here. Okay. All right, that was an incredible and energetic presentation. Good day, right? That's right. It's truly inspiring to see such talent and enthusiasm and just this large number of youth together. They usually are alone in their classrooms, like they're the only Spiritists there, but here they have other peers. So as they go back to their classrooms and conclude their program, I'd like to welcome Brian Wolfsberg from Florida and Sofia de Oliveira from Texas. They both participated in previous symposia, and today, through the beautiful poems, they'll guide us in sending uplifting thoughts to the world, helping to lead us all toward a more hopeful, peaceful, and compassionate future.
Oi? Hello. Oh. Eternal flame. In the silence of the night, a truth unfolds, a light within that never fades away. The soul, immortal, through lifetime holds a vast journey where shadows turn to day. From the dust of our earth, our bodies rise, but fleeting flesh cannot confine the soul. For Spiritism and wisdom gently cries that life transcends the grave and makes us whole. Each trial we face, a lesson is to be learned. In suffering and joy, our spirits grow. Through countless lives, the wheel has turned, and in this dance, our purpose we come to know. Fear not the end, for it is but a door to realms unseen where peace and love abide. The soul ascends, evolving evermore, guided by the truth that dwells inside. In every tear, a seed of hope is sown, for pain is but a stepping stone to grace. The soul, immortal, never walks alone. With each new life, it finds a higher place. So trust in the path, though it may seem steep, for every struggle leads to clearer skies. In Spirit's light, our heart will gently keep the promise of a dawn where sorrow dies. For we are flames, eternal in the night, growing ever brighter as we climb. And in the journey, there is no end in sight, only the endless beauty of the soul's true rhyme. Thank you.
Love and faith. When you find yourself, dear heart, under the violent weather of sadness and suffering's bitter tether, do not let yourself fall. In moments of shadow or danger, hold on to hope in which you rise. Each night, though wrapped in darkened skies, is a prelude to a new morning's call. Try to meditate and see beyond. The natural support in which you trust is woven from love in forces that adjust, from the stars to the ground. The earth does not argue, the sun does not speak, the lush forest demands nothing from life, and the wealth of the air that sustains your strife gives itself wholly without a critique. The flower that scents you is silence and grace. The spring does not opine, it only sings. There is no verbal form to the holy strength it brings, which you absorb from the sea's embrace. The blessings that surround you day by day, protection, security, joy, and defense, are born from nature's essence, a living source of love that endlessly gives away. Work, rejoice, and forgive. Support without charge, and help anyone near. Let not the left hand know what the right hand gives. Sincere, this is Christ's lesson for believers and non-believers alike. Do not fear the path. Serve and proceed. Shelter yourself in high and sublime faith. Keep doing good. Let nothing cloud your way. For with you dwells God's presence indeed. By the Spirit, Maria Dolores, psychographed by Chico Xavier.
Thank you to our wonderful musicians, and thank you to everyone who has attended today, everyone who has prepared for this to be such a smooth, relatively speaking, operation here tonight, and for all of the wonderful energy that has been here. You know, I would love to have these guys behind me speaking as I speak all the time. Isn't that just wonderful? Thank you for your wonderful work. So we're approaching the conclusion of the 18th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. Yes. We did it. We did it. Wonderful work, everyone. But don't go away yet. We have a final request, and that is now you get out your phones, right?
Now you can do it.
Now you can do it. Get out your phones. We want you to get this QR code. And that is where you'll give the reviews for all the wonderful work that people did here today, and where you will tell us, like scientists, what we can do better next time. Get that QR code, and it's a very short survey, and you can fill it out, okay? Now do that. In fact, some of you can start to do it, fill out the survey now. As Nora is doing right now. So everyone got that? All right. Okay, this is you.
And as we come to the close of the 18th National Symposium, we want to extend our thanks to each and every one of you for your presence here today.
And to all the people out there who are watching.
And also to all of you in your homes, whatever you are, for watching us online. Thank you. Your energy, your patience, your participation, your questions made this a better event. Thank you. And before we say our goodbyes, we are thrilled to announce where the 19th United States Spiritist Symposium will take place. So let's watch their invitation.
Hello, we invite you all to come to Michigan next year in 2025.
Come and join us for an amazing event with a full program of activities where Spiritists from all over the country will come to this amazing place, Michigan, to participate in the 19th U.S. Spiritist Symposium 2025.
That's it. We're waiting you all next year, 2025, in the Water and Winter Wonderland in Michigan for this amazing event. See you all soon.
See you all there.
Website, follow us on Facebook, and I hope you can, or download one of our apps to be in touch with us all the time. I hope you can join us once again next year, and we promise that this will be another enriching and inspiring event. Thank you, safe travels, and we look forward to seeing you in Michigan next year.
Anyone who wants to dance, go ahead and do so. All right.